All right. Well, it wouldn't be a Vaush stream if we weren't complaining about the left in some way or another. I talked to. Okay, so this is the Dutch word for red. Okay, red, which is like a youth group that was previously a part of the far left party in the Netherlands, but they're even more far left than the far left party. So they're extra far left, which is great. I love that. Anyway, they talked with me on stream for 2, 3 days ago, and I got to enlighten them on the wisdom of anarcho-Bidenism. It was good. It was good. But that aside, there was a little bit of a funny fallout from it. Thankfully, Google Translate giving us that hot info. Collaboration with housing project Arnhem cancelled. Recently, we were told that Rude is also involved in the Arnhem housing protest. Rude has given a stage to Vaush through a stream who has often said racist, trans hate, and validistic things. This means ableist, by the way. We did some Google foo, and the Google Translate, this is ableist, what they're calling me ableism. And this is feminists against ableism. So that's, something they might have a, particular distaste for. Anyway, so to interpret this Dutch nonsense a little bit, apparently this is a lefty group that actually decided not to show up at a housing protest because another lefty group that showed up at the housing protest had a live stream where some of their members talked to me. Now, I'll admit, I'm a little bit proud of this because previously the greatest instance of IRL left destroying that my affiliation has created was a college leftist group splitting in half over people who did and did not like me. That was like the previous height. But a political group refusing to show up at a protest is like a whole entirely new. That's like that's like a special one. Now I don't know how big this group is. I don't know if they're like they could be like 20 people for all I know. I don't know, but it's really the sentiment that matters to me. Because like man, if you're not willing to attend a protest because other people at that protest have been on a live stream with me, they said that they gave me a stage, but like in reality, that's not true. My online presence dwarfs any Dutch lefty youth group. I mean, it's not. I am the stage. I bring the stage with me. I walk with it. It's got little handles. So it's not really about empowering me. It's more about legitimizing me, which isn't really about giving a stage. It's more they listen to me. They talked to me. I don't know. Anyway, I gotta wonder if you're not willing to show up at a protest because I was platformed by a group, like, have you talked to the average person? I know that a lot of these people haven't because I've been in lefty groups and I know these motherfuckers do not talk to real human beings. But have they ever talked to like a real? If you talk to an average person in America, no, I'm not going to say America, in the Netherlands, okay? I don't know shit about the Netherlands, but I guarantee you that if you talk to the average person in the Netherlands, they're going to be at least moderately reactionary on some issues, and they're going to be incredibly politically uneducated, and they're sure as shit not going to be a socialist, okay? And if you ask them for their positions on race, trans issues, or ableism, you're going to get anything ranging from a confused stare to a deeply problematic answer. That's every country. You are correct. What we're describing right now is known to by sociologists as a normal person. I just have to wonder, like this infighting, this factionalism over me. For God's sakes, I'm a YouTuber, you know? It always does frustrate me a little bit because I know that if I actually talk to these people, they really wouldn't disagree with me on my like the big point of disagreement that when I talk with the rude group was whether or not voting for Biden was preferable to abstaining your vote. Like this was and by the way, when I tweeted about this group not attending the housing protest, there were some people quote tweeting being like, "Good, we don't want to enable and empower you and your racist." So I looked at one of these quote retweets, and one of them was like, "Yeah, you're actually like right wing." So I responded, and here, hold on, don't need to narrate the whole thing. It's almost like actual activists don't want to be linked to a reactionary who outside of America is centrist at best and right-wing at worst. It's just like the opposite of the Bernie Sanders meme. Like, oh yeah, dude, Bernie would be right-wing in Europe. No, he wouldn't be. Oh yeah, dude, Vaush would be right-wing in Europe. No, he wouldn't be. Then again, this is the guy who basically butchered the politics of Germany a month or so back. This is what I get for responding to a single fucking donation at 1 a.m. Jeez. Anyway, don't tell me you actually think Vaush in a global context is centrist/center right. I have no love for the guy either, but please keep your head on straight. He literally is. Many groups in a global context share his exact same views, are center right. So I respond, I gotta know which are, you know? What? Hit me up. Endorse a center-right Democrat who is upholding a status quo of abuse of immigrants and done nothing that was promised within the years. So voting for Biden. Like I've said, guys, the thing that made the left hate me wasn't any of the clip chimps. It wasn't the alleged transphobia or any of the fucking pedo argument, and none of that shit. It was me saying we should vote for Biden. That was it. That was legitimately what broke the left off me. That was what set me apart from them. And then this other one here. You also, for some reason, on multiple occasions advocated we should let right-wingers use slurs if it brings them left. This is incoherent. I never said that. I did say that if you've got, like, edgy white boys who are saying, like, the F slur, it's better to move them to the left than just let them be moved to the right passively. I do believe that. Like, you should be able to talk to them. Like, you shouldn't melt like witches having water poured on them when you hear a slur, you know? You should be able to talk and have a conversation with them. And then I told them they were dumb, which was about as much, you know, about the last we were going to get from that. But anyway, it's just it is truly despair-inducing to reflect upon the fact that there are people who consider themselves, honest to God, in real life activists who are willing to break apart with each other over this. Like, that's legitimately very weird, you know? You have to be able to work, even if you were to somehow, even if you genuinely did believe that I was like right wing or whatever, not attending a protest because another lefty group talked with a right winger. I mean, look, this is an instance where the left should probably learn from their enemies. Guys, who are the most dangerous white nationalists? Are they the guys who get a swastika tattooed on their forehead, who show up to Charlottesville, who go to Klan rallies, who stockpile ammunition, beat their wives, and get arrested? No, not even close. The most dangerous ones are the ones who know how to put on a suit, they clean up their language, they know how to work with more moderate conservatives and sometimes even centrists. They deliberately adjust their language in order to appeal to the broadest base possible and slowly convince a much larger group of people that the language and the politics that they use are not adjacent with white supremacy, but rather other political issues that achieve the aims of white supremacy without explicitly condoning it. That is the most dangerous type of white nationalist. Isn't it? It is. And these people are like allergic to understanding that that is how you achieve power as a radical. You don't even have to lie. It's just a basic ability to coalition build. Like, this is Fuentes is the perfect example. No. Fuentes is deplatformed from every single... Fuentes is the exact example of the first type that we're referring to here, okay? Fuentes essentially does have a swastika tattooed on his forehead. He's banned from everything everywhere. Tucker Carlson is better, much better at what he does in terms of moving people over to the far right, you know? Richard Spencer was doing an okay job, but endorsing Charlottesville and having that leaked clip from Yiannopoulos kind of shot him in the foot there, didn't he? Ron DeSantis would be a better example, exactly. It's all about how willing you are to actually play to the majority. That's how everyone builds political power. But people on the left, look, you cannot build majority power if you're on the left, if you're willing to break up movements over whether or not Vaush had a live stream with somebody. That is just wild to me. The fact that anyone could consider themselves an activist and do that is insane to me. Well, damn, is DeSantis a white nationalist to live in Florida? I don't know if he's a white nationalist. Dude's pretty fucked. Well, we can do a stream on him in the future because he's probably going to run for president, but, like, he's pretty mega fucked. It wouldn't surprise me if he was, like, every bad thing, you know? No, it's in German! Or Dutch. Guys, is Dutch just like German with, like, fancier letters? Be real with me, okay? kind of like a cute German. As long as Vaush isn't a literal neo-Nazi, I can't get mad about him speaking to them. I'm not saying Vaush speaks, I'm saying FAA canceled their speaking. What is... Muted the word Vaush? I muted the word Vaush a long time ago. It's the only move. Another speaker, after repeated warnings about how problematic he is, they still talk to him. Yikers. This is the person who doesn't like me? I think it's pretty intense and a shame that a transphobe, pedophile, racist, etc. is invited. Dude, it is crazy how effective the right has been at framing the way the left... Actually, I take that back. The left, in terms of how they treat me, the left and the right act pretty similar. I like the etc. though. Like, they can keep going. What a pleasure to be speaking to you all. Again, after about 60 seconds of not doing so.
Yeah, of course. Are you streaming now?
Yes, I am. I'm streaming. We're live. You're on cam. You're looking great.
Nice.
If I do say so myself. How you doing?
Hi. Yeah, I'm Olaf. I'm the chairperson of Rood, a socialist youth organization in the Netherlands, a former youth organization of the Socialist Party, but we'll get into how that happened in a second.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we organize this live stream just to have a little discussion. But also, well, you as a person and your YouTube channel is quite controversial, also in the Netherlands, and also inside Rood, because there are lots of people saying you were transphobic because you said that some trans people are subhuman and are mentally ill. Like, how do you reflect on that?
Well, I'm delighted to know my controversy followed me as always. It's a semantic confusion. I've talked about it a few times on my channel, but basically, I was dealing with some online drama, if you can believe it. Oh, hold on. Wait, let me start my video on y'all's end. There we go. I don't know why I'm... There we go. Oh, didn't get these gamer lights for nothing. Anyhow, bit of a semantic mismatch there. I've talked about it before on my channel, but essentially I was angry at a group of people online. And it was a group of people, it was largely part of the LGBTQ community, but I was very specifically being very mean to them based on characteristics not associated with them being trans. I'll give you an example. West Hollywood, grew up right next to it. Big gay area in Los Angeles. Loved it. Great parties. Halloween every year. However, if you go over there and spend any amount of time there, it is inevitable that at some point somebody is going to spill a drink on you or be very rude at you, or cut you off in traffic. And if you're like, this is West Side, he's fucking these asshole, these gay, like, I don't know, you freak out like that. Maybe it's bad. It's probably bad. But I think it's possible in the sort of semantic chain of descriptors to have negative, negative descriptors and also like say gay without it meaning they're bad for being gay. And my content is overwhelmingly pro-trans. If anyone look at trans on my channel, you'll find 200 videos where I'm affirmative. So anyway.
Yeah, well, anyway, I mean, if you specifically mention a group like, especially like trans people, I don't know, I think the situation in the US probably the same. At least in the Netherlands, they're like very, very like oppressed. And a very oppressed group who is oftenly told that they are mentally ill for like being the way they are or being not fully human or whatever. So do you like understand that specifically toward that group that is something you just don't say?
Oh yeah,
even
100%.
If like a heated gamer moment or whatever, it's just yeah.
Yeah, of course. I I don't make a habit of it, No, of course, obviously. The criticisms are well warranted. That's why I've gone over it in the past, If there was nothing to criticize, then I wouldn't be so accepting of criticisms of it. I do ask, however, that anyone who tries to form their opinions on my position on trans people entirely from like 30 seconds cut out from a 4-hour live stream cut from 2.5 years of content, that they could diversify their Vaush knowledge and maybe take a look at the 1,000 other times trans people have come up in a uniformly positive context of my stream.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, but I think it still matters what you, how you talk about people and how you approach them, even though like your whatever your policy positions or whatever may they be. I think yeah, you should like in all contexts treat people with respect, especially like marginalized people like trans people, and don't talk about them in ways like that.
Of
But
course. But what do you do after you've acknowledged that?
yeah, of course. You go on a live stream with Rood, of course.
Yeah, and
But
you keep on fighting for the things you believe in. So
yeah, I know.
it's one of the problems I think with internet discourse, because we only see like snippets and cutouts of other people's discourse. You have the same conversations over and over again. But I'm always happy to, because I understand people's concerns, and I'm always happy to ameliorate them with my my explanation that it is not indicative of some deep-seated hatred on my part.
Well, I'm not sure I'm entirely convinced, but that's anyway, that's up to the viewers as well, I guess. Um, but yeah, maybe we could I could talk a bit about Rood and like how we got where we are, if people may be interested.
Hit me up.
Yeah, because like, well, Rood, we're the former youth wing of the Socialist Party. In Netherlands, it's used to be a Maoist party, started in the 70s. However, they got into Dutch Parliament in the 90s, and they de-radicalized a bit, and now they're yeah, a bit like socialist populism, democratic socialism, however you want to call it. But they do have some conservative undertones because they, you probably know like the stereotype of the white working class who is very conservative and well against trans people and against stuff. So they try to explicitly distance themselves from like the more progressive parts in Dutch politics. Like they really they say they are against like the Green Party, like new intersectional party Bijeen. They go for more for the like white conservative older vote. However, because they were like a Maoist party, they also had they stepped away from Maoism, but not from like Maoist party structures. So they were very strict, bureaucratic centralist. And that's also true for the youth wing, because in most youth wings in the Netherlands, I think that's the same in the US. I don't know. Well, you don't have parties anyway. So, but for most political parties with a youth wing is independent. It can like form their own opinions, can do their own actions. However, in the Socialist Party, there was different. Youth wing was always supposed to walk in line, and was the only youth organization in the Netherlands that was like that. And then while the party was moving to the right, as leftist parties do, most of them at least last decade, and it also declined electorally, so they got less and less seat, less and less members. So the youth became more critical, but they became also more critical on the party mechanisms, because they saw that they could not like speak their mind, they could not like change the course of the party in any meaningful way. So there was like more and more criticisms, and there was also a more radical left-wing current called the Communist Platform, which I am also a member of, and it was growing, and the youth wing became more radicalized, and the Socialist Party didn't like that, so they kicked out at first only the Communist Platform, which I was a member of. I was expelled, but I was then already a candidate for the chair of Rood. And well, everyone in Rood was really angry. And so they still elected me, even though I was kicked out of Socialist Party. And then the Socialist Party kicked us out. They disaffiliated. We are not the official youth organization anymore. And now they are trying to expel every Rood member from the Socialist Party. So that's that's where we are right now.
I think this happened exactly. This is exactly what happened to Rosa Luxemburg. You know, I've heard stories. um, yeah, it's kind of wild listening from an American perspective, because stuff like this can't really happen here in America. I know that in the Netherlands, there's a very low threshold for potential electoral participation. You don't
Yeah.
even have to meet like a bar to like a minimum vote percentage in order to be allowed into the the legislature. You just if you get the votes, you get in. So
Yeah.
hearing all this, I mean, here in America, this kind of sectoral split from split, like here in America, this would be a meaningless symbolic gesture. In the Netherlands, I think maybe it can amount to more, assuming that your group has the will and the drive to achieve that, that sort of nationwide interest. Um, what specifically did you split over? I mean, where were the directions pulling away at?
Yeah, well, the thing is, because we as Rood, we became more critical, and there were national elections past March, and last summer, like summer 2020, we decided on our general meeting that Rood should openly criticize the Socialist Party position of wanting to form a coalition, especially with the VVD, like the largest like right-wing conservative party. And they were during the campaign they were saying, well, we really want to be in government, especially we can even go along with the VVD because they also want to raise the minimum wage. And then we said no, we don't want to we don't want that the SP goes into a coalition after the following elections, because there is not enough, the SP is not strong enough, socialism in the Netherlands is not strong enough to justify joining a government coalition. And they got really upset at that. And then they blamed the communist platform, like a tendency within Rood and the SP. They blamed the communist platform for that. And so they wanted to kick out the communist platform. And well, Rood did not, because they elected me as a chair, and they elect some other board members who are also in the communist platform. And the Socialist Party did not like that as well, so they kicked us out. So that was like the political stuff, but it was also about democracy, like internal democracy, like accepting different factions and tendencies, allowing for open debate, stuff like that. That's the most important reasons for split. Which are also things you see in many left-wing organizations who still like use the old model of the Comintern, where like no internal factions, no open disagreement with the leadership, stuff like that. I mean, I heard about the YCL, the Young Communist League in the UK, that they have like a social media policy. They want to introduce a social media policy where you cannot openly criticize the party on Twitter or something like that. It's ridiculous. But I think the Socialist Party, some people in the Socialist Party, if they could have the power to do that, they would love to. But it's stuff like that that we fight and that we stand for. As I think one of the most important reasons that we got kicked out.
Oh, well, I'm not going to fault those things. I understand that youth wings tend to be a lot more ideologically motivated. Usually the older or the more established wing of left-leaning parties, they tend to be at least a little more incrementalist. I mean, I was in college not too long ago. I know that college students are the demographic most likely to be, quoting, Marx and spitting out fiery sermons about the need for immediate revolution. And people do burn out of that, I think, a little bit the older they get. I do think it's important to have that radical influence in socialist parties, though, especially since there are so many, quote, socialist parties in Europe that are really just social democratic parties that are fallen shadows of what they used to be, which is deeply disappointing.
Yeah.
Well, how do you what core issues do you intend on capturing the electorate with? I mean, what are the axes, the open avenues by which you think you can usurp the power of the organization you used to be a part of?
Yeah, well, we as a youth wing, we're now mainly focusing on like how to be an independent youth organization because we have like way less money, but we are growing because we see that there are lots of young people in Netherlands and I think that's the same worldwide. They're like fed up with capitalism, and they want to join something, and they want to join a movement to that can actually change that and to overthrow capitalism. And Rood is in that sense unique, I think, from other organizations, especially in the Netherlands, and that we see ourselves as revolutionary, as we actually want to put an end to capitalism, and not like the endless incremental reforms that never go anywhere. But we do not organize ourselves in like the sect way that many radical left-wing organizations do, where you like cannot criticize the leadership, or like the Communist Youth Movement in the Netherlands. Like they today uploaded an article about the Hungarian counter-revolution and how, and just repeating the old Stalinist talking points. I mean, people are not waiting for that, I think.
You know, it's funny because, you know, before coming on here, I was seeing people in my chat saying that your youth wing has like a tanky problem. I know my community tends to be a little knee-jerk on issues like that, so I was curious actually where you, in terms of the sort of historical struggle for socialism, where does your party tend to have a slant?
Yeah, well, I mean, people call anyone a tanky these days, but yeah, we are like we are a broad organization. We're containing anywhere from like diehard communists, even some people that I would describe as tankies in a way, but also like anarchists, maybe some social democrats still left. But anyway, I think the main points of our organization are like revolutionary socialism, Marxism, and people are, I think, like attracted to the like the old ideas of Marx, but also of Lenin. But do not go along with like the Stalinist tradition of like just wanting to defend every aspect of the Soviet Union or whatever. We are like internationalist, socialist revolutionaries. I think. I mean, most of us, I think. And like many people get their inspiration from also people like Kautsky, or and also Lenin and Trotsky, but we're not like Trotskyists or Leninists or whatever. I think that's a bit reduction. It's a bit of a reduction to just confine yourself to like one person who had the right idea in the historical struggle or whatever.
All right, I'm just curious. I know you said that there were some people sitting out of this Zoom call. Because of my controversy or whatever. And if there's anything for which I'd be considered controversial, I would prefer it be the idea that I'm somehow bigoted against marginalized people than because I'm not pro-Stalin enough or whatever. At least the former indicates, you know, a good set of moral positions on the part of the people who think they disagree with me.
Well, I think that the question is that you're not pro-Stalin. I think most people don't disagree with that, but I think there are like other positions that you have taken in the past that would very different.
They'd love my positions,
but also like, but yeah, I think I don't know your politics very well. But I've heard some things about Biden would be a Leninist or whatever, or Lenin would vote Biden.
No, that right like there. No, that's exactly what I mean. I tweeted that out as a joke. But people took it seriously. I said no. I said Kamala Harris is like the next Mao. Or no, wait, what was it? Bloomberg is the modern Engels, you know? A wealthy man using his wealth to build socialism. So amazing stuff.
I'm not even
phenomenal tweets like that. But people did take them seriously, which was, you know, interesting to me, because I think that even like a passing familiarity with the concept of irony would make one aware. But anyway. I understand, you know, information economy and all that. It's, I feel like positions-wise, I would probably agree with most of what the Youth Party has to say, unless there are any skeletons in the closet of which I'm unaware. I'm not entirely familiar with the history of the party. How do you maintain ideological hegemony within the youth wing? So, obviously, some dissent is good, but too much dissent within a party means that you become shiftless, unfocused, abstract, and useless. It becomes impossible to focus on a message.
Yeah, what we do, we're working on a program, like a like, which is very short, but just like some few basic points about our analysis of the world, about our goal, and about our strategy. And people can disagree with that. That's fine, but we want to use that as like our guidance to action. Like everyone who accepts it as like as a starting point from which we organize ourselves, then that's fine. So yeah, we and of course there's going to be disagreements. I mean, we want to take over. I mean, we want to organize the mass of people. We want to convince a majority of the world, a majority of the working class, like of our ideas. I mean, of course, you're going to have disagreements. There are some people, even within Rood, like calling for theoretical unity or whatever. I mean, it's fine if people can disagree about whatever they want, but you need to have like some unifying ideas, and whatever you call yourself then, or whatever dissenting opinions you may have, that's all fine. People should be free to express them and to convince other members of their opinions, and to convince the leadership of their opinions. I mean, that's how you build a democracy. But yeah.
No, I completely understand. It is difficult to reconcile that how do you say it? That balance, though, right? Because of course, the more you allow people to freely dissent and have different opinions, what have you, it becomes very difficult to concentrate a message. I know that's one of the things I think that sort of gravitates political parties in bourgeois democracy towards sort of electoral reform rather than revolutionary action. It's that there's a sort of single-mindedness that you need in order to meaningfully move voters over on some positions, not just on a single issue, but generally you need a very concentrated path, you know? But the average worker these days, if you talk to an average worker in America, at least, I assume this is the same in the Netherlands, but if you talk to them about socialism or the proletariat or the bourgeois or seizing the means of production, they don't care. Their eyes glaze over. They care about things like tax incentives and the economy being good, employment being fine, inflation not being too high. These are the economic motivators they care about, which means that in terms of our ability to affect revolutionary potential, our language must be constrained to the economic terminology of modern liberalism. And in that purview, it's difficult.
I don't think so, because, well, the thing is, you have, of course, people don't know, people don't care, and people think you're crazy if you're a socialist or revolutionary or whatever. I mean, that's the same in the Netherlands. But like, as we also do with Rood, we are active in campaigns. We're actually very active in social movements. For example, housing is a big problem in the Netherlands. I assume it's the same in the US. There's a large housing campaign. And we, as Rood, we're there. We try to form local committees of like housing rights organization and political parties, political organization, whatever. And inside those groups, we talk to people and we say, well, you have like a problem with housing. You have like a shitty landlord. You can't find a home. You see all these investors taking away our houses and speculating with it, whatever. And from that point, you can explain people, well, the reason why we have this is because of capitalism and because of those capitalists. And what we have to do is organize ourselves and to overthrow the system. Because, like, well, dat is onteigenen in het Engels. Yeah, well, like we have like a slogan in a housing movement, like we have to confiscate the houses of the landlords, and people like that. Young people who may not be revolutionaries or socialists or whatever, they know, oh well, these landlords, they charge high rents, they don't do anything, they make a lot of money, and I don't have a house. well, we should take it from them. And that's very basic, very logical. And then when you try to explain to them, like, how are we going to do that? Well, by trying to organize ourselves and taking over power from those people, from the people who have the houses, from the people who own the businesses, whatever. And then we can take it and take what's ours. And from those basic economic starting points, you can really convince people to believe in the message of socialism. Because you're not gonna walk up to any random stranger saying, well, did you know what Lenin said about this? No, of course not. You introduce them to them by talking about the things they know about climate change, about housing, about education, whatever. And you connect the problems they experience to like this larger socialist anti-capitalist message, and then you can convince them. And it's not necessary to like to be afraid of your own radicalism and to just talk to them in like liberal or social democratic demands, because they don't work, and people know that they don't work. And
It really depends on the people, right?
really,
I would look this. I mean, this could be sort of a difference in our respective nations' attitudes towards these issues. But I feel like when you're talking to Americans, if you talked about taking houses back from the landlords, they would stare at you blankly. Like, that's pretty much the most you would get from about 95% of the population. Now, that's not to say it's not possible to introduce more radical concepts using language that's familiar to the average person. Bernie Sanders was able to do that, at least on some on some issues, I think, and that's very good. It just feels like it's that revolutionary lump, right? Because here's the thing: you can get people in, taking houses back from the landlords. Maybe if you introduce it well, you sell it, honey, give them some oil to take it down with. But revolutionary potential. I mean, what are they going to say? They're going to say, yeah, we should vote to take the houses back. That leap, I mean, the idea, getting people on board with like, more radical approaches. It seems overwhelmingly difficult to get people interested in something beyond the reformist perspective.
well, I don't think so, because when you talk to people, like let's take the United States for example, you're gonna say, okay, well, we vote to take the House back. What's the Supreme Court gonna do? What's the Senate gonna do? What are those wealthy Democrats gonna do? Are they gonna allow that? No, of course not. I mean, they're not gonna do that. So when you talk to people and say like, well, these basic demands, and we try to implement it like in an incremental way. You can just say that, well, what's gonna happen next? What's going to happen next? When we spend a lot on social security or whatever, I mean, in the Netherlands, the European Union is going to be angry. When we do a lot of radical stuff, the United States is going to put an embargo on us, like they do in Venezuela or other types of countries. I mean, if you try to explain that and think those steps further and explain and talk with these people, like what's going to happen next, like it's almost inevitable. Well, it's not going to happen when we just do it like the incrementalist way. And it's a slow process, and it's not something that happens very quick. But I do believe that you can convince people by talking to them and by being active in the social movements, because especially in the social movements, there are people who are fed up with the system, how it's now, and then you can talk to them, and they can see the problems of the current system, the problem of the current movements that are also very much bureaucratized, probably the same in the US with bureaucratic unions and stuff like that. And then and people know that, and people see that. And when we can talk to them, we can give them hope that that we can do something different, and we can organize ourselves to overthrow it.
Well, I hope so. I think that's a spectacularly optimistic perspective on the potential to move people on over in these issues.
It's not easy, and it will probably take quite a long time.
No. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not dismissing the perspective either. I think that there are a number of cultural and informational apparatuses, I think, that are really good at trapping people within capitalist realism and making it difficult for them to perceive options outside of that. You have aberrations from time to time. Again, Bernie Sanders, while he didn't advocate for revolutionary socialism, did move many people over to that position by agitating them and getting them angry with the way things are, and I think that's a lovely thing. I am sometimes concerned. How do I put this? I feel like when we overstep or overestimate, it can become very difficult to affect real change. Or to put it another way, while I don't disagree with your logic, history is littered with the bones of thousands of idealistic youth communist leagues that have achieved nothing because they were idealistic and they had no actual way of reaching a significant number of people. So that's not a mark on these groups, okay? Lovely folks. I'd probably be a member of one of them if I ever left my house. But it is something I'm always concerned about. It's something I always have to think about. And it's we accept the compromise inherent in like reformist bourgeois electoralism. But sometimes people aren't willing to accept the alternative, which is sometimes the near absolute impotence of any action outside of that. It's breaking from that dichotomy that's the difficult part, I think.
Yeah. I think, yeah, that's true. It's difficult, but I think we should at least try it. But anyway, I think it's like 8:30 now, so we move on to other road members who joined in on the Zoom call.
I love other road members. Hello.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. This is the moderator speaking. The next on the list is Sibren. Sibren, the floor is yours.
Hello, can everyone hear me? Or can Vaush hear me?
Howdy. Yes and yes.
Of course. Hey, Vaush. My name is Sibra. I'm a Dutch political streamer and activist. And I was watching your video on how you want to establish socialism. And you were mainly talking about winning the culture war and electing left-wing politicians. And however, when we look at all what has historically succeeded in furthering policy for social causes, it has been extra-parliamentary action for the most part. Protests, unions, strikes, and other means have furthered socialist causes more than any reform. Accomplishments such as the 40-hour work week, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, the FDR New Deal, which was mostly put in place under pressure from unions. I could go on about all of these examples, but I think organizing is the best means to winning soil for socialists in the political landscape, because I don't think you beat insanely large corporations by participating in their own game. So what do you think is more effective, pushing for elections and electoralism or organizing an action?
They have to be done in unity. You're describing reform right now, you know.
Yes.
Protests and general strikes and what have you have been successful in this country in large part because there was a simultaneous external pressure and the electorate was amicable to those changes, you know. What would have happened if, different presidents had been around at different times? If conservatives had been there instead of FDR, would we have gotten the New Deal? Unlikely. I think we need to unify these interests. Often people think of them as these different opposing positions that you have to take, but in reality, they're not mutually exclusive. They complement each other perfectly. The kind of action that can get people, like, dedicatedly invested in electoral outcomes can be channeled into protests and strikes, and the action and energy in those protests and strikes can be used to foment the birth of a political movement. We have to work together on those, because you are right, electoralism on its own is just a dead end. It cannot work.
So for example, you were talking about, without a liberal president like FDR, it wouldn't have been successful. But also, like, as you see, the election of Joe Biden, without organizing of certain states like Georgia, etc., organization of like registering voters who weren't registered yet, these things have cost a whole lot of more voters. So I think a lot of credit for left-wing politicians, or either like more left of center politicians, is mostly credited due to organization outside of the parliamentary system. If you look at the biggest left-wing politicians that have
Yeah, of
existed
course.
also in Europe.
But I'm not opposed to this at all. I think we should
No,
dedicate a
so
tremendous amount of energy to these causes. Electoralism
yes,
is easy. What, you vote once every 4 years? I make the arguments for Biden or what have you, not because I think that Biden will solve the problems with this country, but because I think him as opposed to Trump gives us a few more years to
yeah,
avoid,
true.
you know, Attorney General Barr shooting me in the back of the head personally, which I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
Trump was personally planning to sign off on. So we buy a little bit of time. We sort of build the base that we need for meaningful action. But I don't think either takes away from the other.
great. Thank you for your answer, because like I wanted to know how you thought about that. Yeah, but I most definitely agree with that too. Well, thank you. I think I should hand over the microphone to someone else. So goodbye. Greetings, Sibren.
Have a wonderful day.
Have a
All
wonderful
right,
day.
thank you, Siblen. The next speaker is Arson, pseudonym.
Hello. Yeah, I'm Arson.
Arson's a crime, you know.
I know. I don't care.
Ooh, okay. Hit me up.
First of all, I think Olaf said like one of the controversies was like Biden is a Leninist, where you said it's a joke. Yeah, that was, I don't know about that one. I think Olaf might have gotten it mixed up with just your whole, yeah. I think the main thing you said was Lenin would have voted for Biden, which I'm not sure about, but yeah, sure.
Yeah. Oh, well, I can defend that. Yeah, actually. I had to do a lot of reading for this, and I did more reading after the video. But yes, I firmly believe that based on their writings, Marx, Lenin, and Mao probably would have advocated that Biden win over Trump. I don't think they would have been, like, running out there with, like, Biden shirts and Biden hats or any crazy shit like that. But all three of them have writing which affirms the necessity of using bourgeois electoralism as a venue for preventing fascism from overtaking countries. Marx actually has wrote on the potential for non-revolutionary communist activity in the States before, because he thought the democracy in America was potentially capable of fermenting socialism without actual revolutionary violence. So, I mean, people would call him a liberal for that these days, but he did write on that. Lenin actually worked with more liberal parties against fascist groups and supported electoralism as long as it ensured the defeat of more conservative groups within countries that had a growing socialist movement. And Mao actually believed it was preferable to work with the nationalists in China against the imperialist and colonizer forces. They worked together, after all, against Japan's invasion. So all three of these groups have a shared understanding that the fight for socialism pertains to not only advocating positively for your positions, but advocating negatively against the worst opposition to your positions. And I think there's a lot of evidence out there that fascists, or whatever degree of fascism Trump would have enabled himself, make socialist advocacy way harder. Like way, 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 way harder, you know?
I think that's a fair point. I'm myself, I'm not really sure. I mainly brought it up because I think Olaf kind of got two things mixed up. I don't think Lenin would have voted, but I'm not really, wanting to go. Yeah, would have voted
No, it's
for
fine.
Biden.
I'm inferring. It's an opinion that I have.
Yeah.
They're not around. I can't ask them. But based on their readings, that's the feeling that I have, and I think there are good arguments for it.
All right. But yeah, the main thing I actually wanted to talk about was your debate strategies, and then particularly towards people, on the left, who you might call tankies or other similar.
Sure.
What I was thinking was that generally you had a controversy, I think, with a black separatist recently, right?
It's been known to happen. It's happened a few times, but yeah, it's happened.
Yeah, I saw that, and like I used to watch you quite a bit, and I was honestly kind of weirded out. because I saw what I recognized as kind of logical fallacies that really felt strange to me. And like, I'm not a black separatist myself, so I disagree with both opinions. But yeah, I thought it was very odd to use that.
Would you say it was cringe?
How do you mean cringe?
Oh, sorry. You disagreed. What specifically did you disagree with? I'm happy to clarify a position
No,
of
I
mine.
didn't really disagree. That's the point I was trying to make. I didn't really disagree necessarily, but I felt you were very much straw manning, or yeah, whatever, and other. Yeah, that's kind of the impression that I got.
Okay. There is an issue that I have on the left where it feels like leftists are very effective at understanding and deconstructing certain types of propaganda and dog whistling. We're experts at it when it comes to fascists. We are monumentally better at it than liberals are. Liberals will stupidly pretz about not understanding this or that or the other, but leftists, we understand, we look at the fascist argument, we understand the subtext. What are they really saying? But sometimes it feels like these analytic capabilities we have, we don't apply them to our own group sometimes. So in that conversation, I saw a reflection of what I consider to be not just extremely politically undesirable behavior, but additionally sort of an antithesis to what leftists would traditionally consider the best path towards racial liberation. You know, I'm of the Fred Hampton school, of the Black Panther Party. We're not going to fight white capitalism with black capitalism, you know? We fight it with unity. We fight it with a better answer. We fight it with socialism. But sometimes it feels like we're just trying to flip the power dynamic a little bit, you know? Never in American history have we achieved the racial liberation for black people through black supremacy or anti-white racism. It just doesn't seem to work. Maybe it feels good, but...
I actually fully agree with you on that, and that's kind of why I brought it up. Because it very much gave me the impression as like I kind of got blown in from the outside.
Sorry. And because of the time, I would have to.
Can I tell them that I love them?
Yes, you can.
I love you. I appreciate the question.
Finish my sentence?
But then we have to
All right.
go to the next one.
You said antithesis. So yeah, I kind of missed. Well, you put forward a thesis. She had an antithesis, but there was no real building of a synthesis what you did agree on, and I kind of missed that.
I agree with that. I just don't think we have anything to agree on. I honestly just think she reflects the antagonism of the oppressor from the perspective of the dispossessed. I don't know if there can be synthesis between this and that because our goals are opposite. I want equality, but some people want... well, they just want the other supremacy. It just seems counterproductive. But I understand your concern. I'm sure it'll come up again in the future. Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Thank you, Arson. Thank you, Vaush. The next speaker is Jules.
Hey.
Howdy.
Hey, how are you?
Doing good. Nice stash.
All right. Well, I will firstly say I completely disagree with your comment on Lenin, but I don't think it's time to get into that.
He DM'd me and told me that I was right, by the way.
Well, what was I wondering? What I was wondering about. Of course, in the Netherlands, we worked in the Socialist Party for a long time, and I'm wondering, in the United States, as a socialist, which party do you think you should join? I have a lot of appreciation for a project which is called Marxist Unity Slate. It's socialists who are in the Democratic Socialists of America. Do you think the DSA is a place where you can promote socialist politics or not? What's your view on that?
Yeah, for sure. I think because third parties are essentially useless in the United States, you should always be voting Democrat across the board. But in terms of where you can lend your time and your energy and your, your advocacy, I think you should be spending lots of time in the DSA, especially since they seem to be a constant clusterfuck. So it might be good to go over there and just, smack some sense out of them, give them some pamphlets, give them, no, the DSA is not a party. I'm just saying that, yeah, broadly. But yeah, you should focus on stuff like that. In terms of who you vote for, I think it's probably a waste of time to actually vote for parties that are not the Democratic Party.
Okay. Well, I would say I would disagree. Because of course the Democratic Party, while a little bit more progressive than the other side, they're still, they enforce the rule of capital. And if you as a socialist start promoting voting for a very capitalist party, a bourgeois party, I think you would completely lose any faith somebody could have in you being a revolutionary. If you say that this system has to be abolished and that we have to move on to a socialist system, but at the same time, on the other side, you're saying vote for this bourgeois politician, I don't think you will get any trust from that.
Of course, it's interesting that you would say that, because Vladimir Lenin advocated for voting for the British Labour Party, which he considered to be a bourgeois and reformist party that was ultimately incapable of serving the revolutionary needs of the proletariat. Now, of course, the British Labour Party at its time was much more left-leaning than the modern Democrat Party, but I think the logic is the same. Even if they would not achieve socialism, even if they just reify and reaffirm the conditions of bourgeois democracy, it is still sometimes essential that you allow the least bad option to win.
Well, but I think the argument here about Lenin, what he makes is, of course, Lenin, he always said that you have to work within the labor movement. And the Labour Party was part of the labor movement, and the Labour Party was doing lots of action to improve workers' rights. That's not what the Democrats are doing. And if you, as a communist, start working, and that's what we did in the SP, we, as communists, we were in a party similar to our Labour in a way, where, well, we worked there. And I think this is also what Lenin is saying. I don't think he would in any way say that you should join up with the Democrats and start spreading socialism within there. But of course, working within the labor movement in the Labour Party at the time, well, what I'm saying, it's a different situation anyway.
Well, there's not really a joining the Democratic Party, right? I mean, you could vote once every 4 or 2 years if you want, but apart from that, spreading socialist theory within the Democratic Party is as simple as running around outside screaming at the top of your lungs. It's just a matter of which soapbox you're given. Bernie Sanders was able to do a lot of good by taking advantage of the relative position and power that you get being a candidate within the Democratic Party, you know?
Yeah, I'm just saying that this is not the argument that Lenin is making. And well, while, you know, having discussions about, well, Lenin would have supported this or that is just as idiotic as doing Bible studies, in a sense.
That I agree with. I only did all that.
So if every argument is just saying, well, Lenin would have supported this or that, I don't think that's very useful.
Oh, that but, I agree with.
Think, okay, well, then we found some agreement.
I only did all that because the tankiers are always going, oh, well, you may have 27 good arguments for X, but here's the one text from one book written by one theorist that says that you're wrong, actually. So I thought, okay, well, if you want arguments derived from biblical studies, then sure, we'll go to biblical studies. And I read up on it and such.
All right, then I'll lend the word to someone else.
All right, thank you, Jules. The next speaker is Jonas.
Good, ik mag. Okay. Hey, good night. Can you hear me?
Howdy.
Hey,
and
hey.
Yes.
Hear me? Am I audible?
You are audible and also howdy.
Okay, howdy. First of all, I just want to say that I disagree with Roth being here tonight. There were indications from inside the party that people felt very uncomfortable with you appearing on Roth. And I feel like you should respect the safety of your members, regardless.
Could I ask what safety is being compromised?
I think it's a general feeling of unsafety that, well, the argument would be that you would be a transphobe, regardless of me, what I think of that. But the argument would be that you are a transphobe, and thus the people supporting you might be okay with that.
I think that is an unsustainable interpretation of both my content and my community. There are probably more trans people in my community than there are like in the entirety of the left in the Netherlands, I would probably wager. It is absurdly pro-trans in here. I'm tripping over trans flags in my chat. But it's so while I understand your concerns, I do think it's important to keep in mind that you know, I weep for the revolutionary who thinks that I'm so ideologically dissonant that it's unacceptable to speak with me. I mean, God, if I'm outside the purview of safe people to talk to, I mean, your average working class member of just about any Western country is probably completely out of the rope, right?
Sure, I would agree with you, except for the fact that the average working person, you would have a possibility to convince them of your ideas. And I feel like your debating strategies have in the past proven to be very debate to win, I guess.
You know, I hear that a lot from folks who...
Somebody earlier as well said that you are not really looking for a synthesis, but more trying to state your own case.
Well, I do feel that way when talking to racists, yeah. Like when I talk to white supremacists.
Yeah, no, talking to racists, but also to leftists.
Well, there are some racist lefties. It's been known to happen. What do you think that we disagree on?
Who do you mean? You and me?
Yeah.
I think we disagree on how you've handled situations of controversy in the past.
But like positionally, I mean, I won't deny that I've handled stuff. Yeah, I won't deny that. But like positions wise, I think.
I think that's an important issue. That I think that in itself is a position.
All right. Well, I mean, I think that most of the time when I argue with lefties, I do so in a responsible way. I think there are problems within our group, especially online, that many people are unwilling to address because they treat the left like a social club, with respect, I think you do as well. Me being on a Zoom call with you threatens no one's safety. You act like I'm in a room with you and your friends, but I'm over in Seattle, you know? This isn't a matter of safety, it's a matter of exclusion and inclusion. And sometimes the standards we would apply to a social group are not the same that we would apply to a political coalition. So by conflating those two, you have weird issues. Like, there are people who claim to be anti-racist who are explicitly anti-white in the left, which is very strange to me. And there are people who are supposed to be in favor of feminism, but they're anti-male. And moreover, there are people who claim to be socialist, but they support China. I have no idea how these people consider themselves leftists, but I think it's important to challenge them.
Sure, but I feel like that's a different point, because I feel like, indeed, me talking with you right now is not a threat to anyone. But I feel the signal that you give off as a group by saying, okay, this is a person we support, because the announcement was very positive for this thing, I feel like that might lead to a feeling of unsafety.
I would hope that you would all largely agree with me on pretty much everything I believe. Progressive socialism and advocacy for building dual power, the belief that LGBTQ rights are valid, that racial minorities should be uplifted. I feel like on the broad strokes, we'd probably agree on just about everything. So I feel like there's just a lot of controversy around me that's largely tied to a lot of leftists' discomfort with the idea that somebody might aggressively challenge bad elements within our community, you know?
No, I feel
like thank you both.
Oh, wait, may I hear one last thing? Because I've overtalked them. I apologize.
Oh, no, it's fine. I think I've made my point. I think you've made your point. I think it's fine.
Well, either way, I am happy to be here. Thank you.
Okay, good.
All right, thank you both. The next speaker is Mani. You have the floor, Mani.
Mani, I love Mani.
Thank you, Vaush. Thank you. I know you can. You're probably very capable of appreciating my Persian name. So I'm wondering this. So one thing I was wondering, out of curiosity, was if I would talk about like one element in socialist movements that I feel in the present day isn't very focused on, maybe justifiably, is what is the role of culture within politics in building movements? And I'm wondering if I would ask you, it's a question maybe that's, of course, sliced in three parts, you know, if I would talk about like an ideal socialist society, what would spring into your mind as important elements of a culture of such a society? The other question is, what will be the fabric of social cohesion in that society? Because in the past, it might have been big concrete worldviews or, you know, ethnicity, what would be the social fabric in this society, you know? And the last part is, of course, is it important for leftist movements to have an understanding of the minority groups, their culture, to involve them in their movement?
Yeah, I'll try to. Oh, I'll try to answer that in order, as best as I can. I think that an addressal of culture is absolutely essential because culture is the main social regulating mechanism that we use to dictate how people engage with the world. And some cultures can preclude people towards cruelty, exclusionary behavior, and all these nasty things we don't want to encourage. But what we really need is a culture which it pertains to a strong civil society, a very strong appreciation for individual rights, but collective, defense of those rights. You need a culture which is about compassion, and I think most importantly, a proper sociological imagination, a rejection of essentialism more so than anything. Why are things the way they are? Well, almost overwhelmingly because social forces have been orchestrated to arrive at these points, not because things just are that way. I think religious thinking trends heavily with essentialism in many of those ways. Not always, but I think that they tend to correlate at least. With regards like how should we push for this, I think, or like how could we realize this? I think this is one of the reasons why I really do not like the dichotomy between material conditions and identity politics. Because the reality is, identity politics are material conditions. For gay people in America, whether or not you can marry, for trans people in America, whether or not you can use the restrooms associated with your preferred gender, these are material conditions for them. It's not exactly the same as class. They aren't identical. And class is, I think, probably the biggest and most unifying element of discrimination here in the States, at least. But that doesn't mean that they don't all pertain to material condition. We dismiss things that are part of the culture war. But in reality, the culture war means much more to us than it does to conservatives. For them, it's a distraction. If the working class is upset that all their jobs are going away, blame immigrants. Say trans people are up to something. I don't know. Distract them. But for us, the culture war is about affirming basic human rights, and it's something we should be invested in. And finally, we need to be extremely understanding of elements of minority cultures, I think, for two main reasons. First of all, if they're in your country or on your planet, which I think we all are, they have a right to have their perspectives heard and understood. Simple as that. No matter how small their culture is, even if their values are dissonant to mine, there's at least an argument to be made. There are plenty of things about Saudi Arabian culture that I know I do not like. However, if I were to have an influx of 1 million Saudi Arabian immigrants into my country, I think they have a right to at least make a case for their culture. And we can see which elements are defensible and which aren't, and as we should do with American culture broadly. And finally, secondly, we can learn from them as well. Maybe there are things they do like better than we do. American culture sucks, you know? It really sucks. The atomization of the family is a huge problem over here. Which cultures do that better? Hispanic cultures. Mexican immigrants tend to have much stronger family ties. They tend to live in multi-generational households. It's something we abandon here because of the American deemed tech bro, strike it out on your own fantasy, but I don't think that's healthy. We should always be considerate so we can learn and so they can live. And that is I hit the button. Bang, that's my answer.
I mean that's a good answer. I'll accept it for now. I mean, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Manny. The next speaker is Jesse.
Heyo.
Ayo.
Hey, I heard you were pro gun rights, or am I wrong on that?
I'm pro gun ownership. I'm okay with gun
Yeah.
regulations.
Yeah, that is something that is not seen as much in Europe.
Mhm.
But do you think gun ownership should be pursued outside of the United States?
Probably not. Here in
No?
here in America, I'm okay with here in America, guns are ubiquitous. They're
Mhm.
everywhere. There are more guns than people. So here in America, if things ever collapse, if society falls down, it dissolves to dust, you know, there are going to be, and this is a guarantee, far-right militia groups roaming the streets. We've seen it happen even when society is intact, okay? When society falls apart, you know these guys are going to be doing that. And when that happens, inevitably, I would like it for people in cities, left-leaning people, minority groups, you know, I would like it for them to have guns in their house. maybe they're not going out there John Wicking their way across the streets, but if things really do fall apart, I at least want gun ownership to be distributed evenly between the good guys and the bad guys, so to speak. But in Europe, where you guys don't have 50 million guns per person, it doesn't seem like an issue worth fighting for, I don't think. Not in the modern era.
Yeah, that was basically my question. And also, props to you for coming here and your debate with Charlie Kirk. I really like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There will be another
Yeah,
one soon.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting. But yeah, that was my question.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Vaush, how are you in regards to time?
I am not. I am strapped for nothing. I have got a clear schedule today.
Okay, then we have another speaker, Robin.
Hello. Can you hear me? Oh, somebody else should mute. Yeah. Okay. Two things about gun rights and about voting for Democrats. Firstly, about gun rights, I do think that we should pursue it in Europe as well, since the working class movement should be able to defend itself, even here, you know. And like, who has weapons in Europe? Also the bourgeois states that can use force against the labor movement to break down strikes, etc. So I do think that there's still a case to be made in Europe as well as a democratic position, just like the United States, as you already made good arguments for, like oppressed people should have means to defend themselves as well. The second thing that I want to ask you is, don't you think that you say like voting third party in the United States is worthless, but if you want to build an independent working class party, don't you think that by voting Democrat, you keep repeating the same logic that way? Like, a third party will never get big if you keep voting Democrat, of course. So I do think that's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, I think it's a prophecy that'll take place whether you fulfill it or not. It seems like with regards to third parties in the US, they are mathematically incapable of succeeding unless we change first past the post voting. But I don't think that's going to change whether you vote Democrat or not. Now, there is in the modern era, I think, a slightly increased interest in changing the laws surrounding this. Like Yang, for example, has put forward an interest in reforming some of these things, which I think is delightful. I think you can work within systems like that, and I will legitimately support Andrew Yang, at least on that front. But I don't think that, because if you vote third party, like, you're essentially mathematically incapable of succeeding, which means that you can't actually get the policies you're trying to push for achieved. I think the best thing that you can do is support the third parties, but then you vote for the main ones, because it wouldn't have made a difference either way, and it's better the Democrats win than the Republicans. But I think it's something we need to fight for, like a very, essentially, we need to, we always need to keep that in mind as a sort of additional goal to whatever political advocacy we're engaging in. As for the gun stuff, I kind of defer to Europeans on this, I think, because, I know that the conditions surrounding issues like these matter very much. The issue to me is that here in America, the omnipresence of guns is already taken for granted, meaning that defending the existence of those guns is a very easy position to take. They're already all over the place, you know? Whereas I know that in Europe, like, Europeans are scared of guns because they're spooky and loud. So if the left parties are running around going, you know, we should buy a bunch of guns and loosen our gun laws and all own guns and stuff, like, I feel like because it's out of the norm there, you would waste a lot of political capital on an issue that is tangential to people's material interests, at least at the moment. But if it could be done, I guess I'm not that opposed to it. Though it can be a curse, okay? Which country do you live in? Wait, why did I ask that? I'm literally talking to a political... Yeah, I don't know why I asked that. I'm literally talking to a political... Okay, ignore that. Yeah, I don't... Wait, hold on. What is the... Hold on, I need to know. Gun ownership... Netherlands. Oh my god. The possession of all firearms is prohibited? It's forbidden to use weapons? Okay, well, alright. Look, all I'm gonna say is that here in bad neighborhoods in America, sometimes you... Oh! Here in bad neighborhoods in America, sometimes you fall asleep listening to gunshots, okay? That's a very American experience, so just keep in mind that you might be importing that nighttime symphony with the guns, you know?
Yeah, I still
So,
think it's important to also convince people of your principled position on this.
Yeah, I still.
uh-oh. Got somebody being a goofball out there. Yeah, sorry, continue. I think there might be a delay. Uh-oh. That's okay, I'm chilling.
Okay, sorry. My audio was totally weird, as I had your stream running in 3 different tabs while having Zoom open, and then I heard myself getting repeated. Well, I still think it's important to also convince people of the principles arguments for gun ownership, even though it may lose some support in the short term, you know? Like, if you are going to hide away your principled arguments, when are you going to make it, you know?
I guess it would. It's really a cost benefit to me. I don't really focus on, you know, which ideological arguments I want to headline. It's more how much good can I do for advocating for this, as opposed to how much harm could be done. What's the cost benefit analysis? How many people do you alienate or include? And I suppose it would really depend country by country. You know, I know Switzerland has the fairly ubiquitous gun ownership as well, but in a different way than the United States. So they've done it better than we have, at least.
Yeah, I agree with you on Switzerland. Yeah.
All right, thank you both. Then as a last question, we have an audience question from one of our members who couldn't be here tonight. Nihat asks, in the time of Marx and Lenin, it was logical to support liberals for democratic rights. Democrats in the United States won't fight for union rights and the possibility to get a socialist party into Congress. How else can we fight for these rights?
Well, you don't fight for the Democrats because they're going to bring about socialism. You fight for them because the alternative is a slip slide into fascism. I've always been concerned about this. I feel like leftists historically were the greatest enemies of fascists, and then right around the time that Stalin took control of the USSR, we stopped doing that. Like, all of a sudden now we do this social fascism thing where it's like, liberals, fascies, whatever, I see the same. But we should be the greatest enemies of fascists. We should be crawling naked through a field of broken glass for 20 miles so we can hit a button that makes it 1% less likely for a fascist to take power rather than a liberal. We know how bad fascism gets. We're literally the first people killed every time they take power. They killed us before the Jews in Germany. I mean, they know we're their enemies. We don't seem to know they're ours. So the Democrats are just a stopgap. They delay. They buy time. The real way to achieve working class consciousness in this country is not through supporting the Democrats, it's through watching them fail. This is one of the reasons why I'm excited by it's Biden, okay? Working class people in America who have revolutionary potential will never be moved to the far left by watching Trump do bad. Because all they're going to hear and all they're going to believe is that things are bad because Trump is bad. Of course Trump is bad. Everyone knows Trump is bad. And they believe that if it was just a Democrat in office, things would be so much better. But they're wrong. It's when Democrats fail that people turn to more radical options. And that's one of the reasons why we want Democrats to win too. Not just to stop the fascism, but to let them fail. Put them up on the gallows and watch them, fall. It's an essential part of radicalizing people. If you take a look at the voting numbers here in the United States, you'll see that this theory bears out in the data. The fact that Obama, after 8 years as president, the primaries next were Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, and Bernie Sanders did really, really well. He didn't win, but he did great. Then you have 4 years of Trump, and how does Bernie Sanders do after 4 years of Trump? Worse. He does worse after 4 more years of Trump. Why? Well, you can find out when you look at why American voters chose Biden. Electability. That's why. Because they were so desperate to get rid of Trump that they would have chosen any Democrat they felt could have won. So they chose Biden. But in a world free of Trumps, in a world free of radically dangerous alternatives, the Democratic Party is more open and amicable to radical choices because they don't feel like they're gambling against a fascist autocrat. So this is what we need. Democrats must win every time, and then they must fail to achieve their goals every time. And in the abscess of political power caused by their inadequacy, socialism will grow. Its shadow. That's what Bernie Sanders did, and he radicalized millions and millions of people. This is the strategy for our victory in this country. Now, I know it's not a perfect or immediate strategy, but honest to God, I think it's the only thing we've got right now because, you know, taking to the streets with guns is not an immediately effective or pragmatic solution.
All right, thank you for your answer. Is there anyone in our Zoom call who I forgot? Someone other than already spoken people? No? In that case, maybe Robin would like to add something.
Yeah, just one more thing about the Democrats. Like, if you keep, you say like the Democrats fail and people become radicalized, basically, right?
Mhm.
I don't want to misinterpret your argument, but like, how many times do the Democrats already have failed? You know, so many times. I do think that it's time to be honest about our politics. You know, and if we let the Democrats fail by voting on them, etc., people will just become disillusioned with us as well. I think they already proved themselves to be like failures and just managers of capitalism. So I still understand why people need to be convinced again of that. You know, people already saw all the Democrats fail. So
have you talked to an American liberal? Look, I'm on your side. I also cannot believe they need to be convinced, okay? But unfortunately, yes, you see this every election cycle. You know, they get really hyped up about this or that, the other. And look, if anything, things are accelerating right now, okay? Under Obama, the liberals in this country were very quiet, you know? You can take a look at Obama's approval rating over time, and you'll see it reflective of a sort of uncritical acceptance from the Democratic Party. Biden's approval rating is plummeting. It's below Trump's highest approval rating now. That's crazy. And that's in spite of the fact that by most metrics, Biden is a better president than Obama. More progressive, you know, he's ramping down the foreign intervention as opposed to ramping up, you know, okay. But his approval rating is still going down. Why? The American people expect more. And that disappointment will lead to more radicalization. We just have to make sure it's in the right direction because we don't want any of these disillusioned Bernie-crat types moving over to like the Jimmy Dore gray zone proto-fash Nazbol shit, you know? We gotta yank them in, you know? We have to yoink them.
Okay, thank you.
No?
I assume
There's a delay on
since,
that mic, but I love them.
Oh.
Tell them so.
Since Robin is not replying, that he agrees or is...
no, I don't agree. But
okay,
yeah.
Then in that case, thank you anyway. Arson would like to also add a little bit, and I would like to ask Vaush before we go there. How do you want to continue after we finish this question?
Oh, I'm totally good for time. We can go on for as long as there are folks who have questions. If we ever run out, then I guess I'll dab on out.
Okay, so I'll give the microphone to Arson, and I think after that we will do a sort of quasi-open mic, but keep it civil, please.
All right.
Howdy.
Yeah, howdy again. I guess I'll just continue on what we were talking about. At least what Robin asked. So you said that after the Democrats do shit in office, then suddenly people will get radicalized to the left. I don't see that happening. What I see happening is that the Democrats are fucking up and they get reelected. And then a part gets disillusioned. But eventually, we saw it in 2016 in the US. Then Trump came after the 8 years of Obama. And I'm not sure if it really means that now we suddenly get a socialist American alternative.
I think the operative word here might be suddenly. There are no suddenlies in this game. It's a long and arduous process filled with inevitable failure. The numbers do bear out in my favor, though, because when we're I'm trying to find some set of material predictors to describe what leads to left-leaning radicalization in my country. I know, of course, the most about American electoral politics, you know, but I'd be willing to bet this is a somewhat ubiquitous phenomena, okay? Back in 2008, Obama was elected, and everyone was very excited by Obama. We'd had 8 years of George Bush. George Bush, you know, we start the wars, 9/11, blah, blah. He was not very popular at the end of his term. And Obama came in riding this wave of optimism. He was our first black president. He was very erudite. He was incredibly professional, which was in contrast to George Bush's sort of folksy, yee-haw mannerisms. But after 8 years, something unthinkable happened. The largest political party in the United States had, for a time, the potential to be led by an honest-to-God socialist, Bernie Sanders. Now, in 2008, this was unthinkable. The idea that in 2008 somebody like Bernie Sanders could very nearly win the Democratic primary was unimaginable. But in 2016, it quickly became a reality. That is... And then, even though things weren't quite as good in 2020, the same process repeated itself. Why? This could not have happened in 2008, not 2004, not 2000, not 1996, not 1992. Back in the Clinton era, this guy was agreeing with the Republicans on like all of his economic policy. Clinton was hailed as a hero of the Democratic Party in spite of, you know, being a fairly conservative, deregulatory kind of guy. What we're looking at here is a trend worth examining further. Are the failures of the Democratic Party going to immediately lead to mass radicalization? No, not even slightly. But I'm just looking for things that work. Because, like, let's be clear. Nothing else is, here in the States at least. There aren't any other processes that work. I always get this. It's like, you know, well, this isn't going to lead to stuff. Well, find another thing that'll work. I don't know. Because a lot of people say stuff like mutual aid. Okay, go mutual aid socialism in. Well, all right, sure. You build your unions. Oh, wait, we can't. Union participation is at like 12% of the states. All of our avenues are dead. All the ladders have been burnt. We're just looking... I'm just desperately clinging to what seems to be one of the few remaining paths we have to meaningfully radicalizing people to the left. And if you want, by the way, like, this isn't mutually exclusive with any other strategy you have. You just have to make sure the fascists don't win, which I think is like a thing a lefty should believe it anyway, right?
Yeah, that's fair. I would say that union participation being at 12%, that sucks. It's not that high here either. But then, yeah, instead of focusing like a ton of effort really into saying, yeah, sure, vote for Biden because else it's a fascist. Biden also voted in laws that said, no, not voted in laws, but under his administration, I think they basically, said that socialists and anarchists or whatever are terrorists, which,
they are
much better.
Right. They are both anti-socialist, but only one of them is fascist. I'm not saying that Biden is good. I'm only saying that he's not as destructively bad as Trump. With respect, you cannot fathom how close we got to the precipice under Trump. General Attorney Barr was legitimately considering bringing up sedition charges against Black Lives Matter protesters. Donald Trump was encouraging our military to be sent in to crack down on protests. We could have very nearly reached like post-Soviet Union, Eastern European level of police crackdowns in some of these protests. We were so close to a sweep and a media blackout, and 48 hours later, piles of corpses. It's happened before. It's not like that's something that can't happen in a country like this. But that won't happen under Biden, or at least it's much less likely to happen under Biden. Does he suck? Yes. But we buy time, and that's all we can really bid for right now. Because under Trump, Trump was talking about patriotic education, so all the American kids are being educated, like, not taught about slavery, actually, Christopher Columbus was a demigod sent from the heavens to bring civilization to the Native Americans, like shit like that, you know? There are meaningful things we're fighting against. And everything that Biden does that Trump also would have done, while bad, doesn't take away from the fact that he's not doing even a fraction of the bad things that Trump would have done if he had won.
I guess that's fair. That kind of clarifies it. Yeah, it sucks, but yeah, politics in general right now sucks. Obviously.
Yeah, it fucking sucks. I hate it here. I do hate it. Yeah, I'm not a particularly optimistic guy when it comes to the potential for like immediate positive action, but I think we can build our communities, and I think we can prevent the worst case scenarios. At least we can work to do our best to prevent those scenarios. We can bid for time and wait for a better day, you know?
Revolutionary patience.
Exactly. No, exactly. Yeah. That's a real thing, though. Think of all the socialist movements that have handicapped themselves by trying to play their hands too early. That's happened. Think of what happened with Rosa Luxemburg, you know? We talk about the Social Democrats betraying her, but that's only kind of what happened. Rosa Luxemburg was opposed to their little attempted coup, their little revolution, you know? Rosa Luxemburg was only brought on as one of the leaders because she reluctantly agreed after the party went ahead on it without her. They played their cards too early, and of course the Social Democrats are going to fight again. Of course, they're Social Democrats. They weren't going to join the revolution, so they all die, and Rosa Luxemburg gets a bullet to the head because she was the headliner for a movement that she warned against enacting. You know, it's important. You know, it's important to play it chill sometimes.
Yeah, I agree on that. Using Rosa Luxemburg as an example kind of feels odd to me, particularly as people like Kautsky. Sure, they were social democrats, but they were still in like the Second International, really important, influential communists. So it's kind of odd to then say, I don't really get that part of your what you said. It's odd to say, they're social democrats. Of course, they're not going to join. Does that mean that any party operating in a bourgeois democratic state, whether it wants to rule or not, just isn't gonna do shit?
I just mean you only play those cards when you can win, and never, ever, ever before. Rosa Luxemburg is one of my favorite theorists. She was very critical of Lenin's authoritarianism. She was, I think, in a term based in red-pilled. But pragmatism is the thing I'm fighting for here, not ideological, like, purity, you know? The most ideologically pure socialist gets radicalized and immediately runs outside to charge into their nearest police station and dies in the process. Congratulations, you've saved the proletariat, you know? No, what I care about are political leaders and movements who are ideologically principled, but are also considerate, pragmatic, and patient enough to bide their time and wait, build power, and only act when there's, you know, a high chance of success, or at least if there's no other alternative. I think, you know, the German Revolution of 1918 was pretty bad political strategy, and it did lead to Rosa Luxemburg's death, regardless of who's directly at fault, which is really unfortunate because I really liked her. She could have written many more books if she had lived to die of an old woman.
Yeah,
All right.
I
Yes.
completely disagree on it not being the time in Germany at that point. Like, if the Social Democrats just hadn't betrayed the communists, who were practically largely their allies, then would that revolution really still have failed? I'm not sure. We can't know, of course, because they did betray Rosa Luxemburg. But yeah, it's We had just had the October Revolution. I think it could have been the time. And I don't know when the next time will be, but it might be soon. It might be like fucking 2 generations from now when I'm already dead.
All
Might
right,
be.
thank you, Vaush. Final remarks
I
on
just
that?
want to say, I just want to say one final thing to that, and it's like, you know, Bernie Sanders is ostensibly an ally of the modern Democratic Party, but if Bernie Sanders led like a revolutionary attack on Washington, I wouldn't be terribly surprised if Biden sent out the troops, you know? I'm just saying, like, I feel like if you look at some of the conditions present in Germany at the time, it seems like that betrayal was kind of written on the wall, you know? Again, like, I'm not absolving the Social Democrats here. I'm only saying that we have to be, you know, we have to be considerate, because I only care about, you know, when it only matters if you win, right? I mean, it's great and all if you try and lose, but we're not fighting over bragging rights here. It's not about honor or glory. It's about whether or not you can make life better for the revolutionary proletariat. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just salty that Luxembourg is dead, I guess.
All right, thank you, Vaush. Then for closing remarks, I would like to go to Olaf, the chairman.
The chairman. Yes, but anyway, I think we can finish the stream now. Yeah, just some remarks about revolutionary patience. I think we should be patient and should wait for the right time and should not commit ourselves to bourgeois institutions like Democratic Party in the meantime. But anyway, we could talk about that for hours, I think. But anyway, I think thanks for the stream. I think everyone has said what they wanted to say, and for that, I think we can round it off.
Yeah. Well, if I'm to be given the closing statement, I appreciate being brought on. I had a good time. I hope that the people in your community who consider me controversial or, otherwise unorthodox take the time to listen to what I have to say, and I wish you all luck in continuing to advocate for the interests of progressive socialism in your country. I'm very confident that on the meaningful issues that we would fight for, we would agree on essentially anything and everything. And that whatever disagreements we might have would lie more towards how to best achieve those things, which, to be fair, is that not the spirit of left discourse? It's not like inter-left fighting has been invented by the internet. You know, Marx and Bakunin were writing letters at each other. We were always doing that. That's part of the tradition, you know. So, hopefully, in spite of all that, we can find those common axes of agreement and try to make the world a little bit better of a place.
Thanks.
Does that mean the call ends?
Yeah, I think so. But
all right, I'll take care. Y'all take care now. Just making sure. Just making sure. I gotta just clarifying. You know, us Americans, we're just friendly. You know how it is. Y'all take care.
Yes, you too. I will end the call or leave a meeting. I don't know if I can end the call.
I believe in you. Nice. Those American-European cultural differences. I don't think that has anything to do with American-European cultural differences. Nice! How well do you think the Democrats must fail argument holds up in a parliamentary system where people can just vote for another liberal party? Not as well. We'll have to work on a new strategy when we don't just have 2 parties. One thing at a time. Anyway, nice. We had a good time. The only good thing about this, the theory, nonsense. I enjoy talking with communities that are wary of me. How nice is that? So they all think you're a transphobe, huh? I don't know, and I don't care. I know I'm not, and you all know that I'm not. Good ass memes out there.